Measuring your cervix is one of those things that sounds a lot scarier than it is. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to find your cervix, how to measure it, and why it matters for picking and choosing your menstrual cup. My name is Kim Rosas, and I am a menstrual cup expert and educator here at Nirvana. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe for more menstrual cup content and menstrual disc content. Now we can get back to it. There's no other way around it. You're going to have to stick a finger in your vagina. That's a simple explanation. That's it. Cut. We're done. There's a little more to it than that. But in its simplest form, it really is just taking a clean finger and putting it in your vagina and feeling for the cervix. First, a brief explanation about what your cervix is and why this matters. Your cervix is located at the base of your uterus. This is where the menstruation flow comes from, and this is where you will put a menstrual cup underneath, or a tampon, or a menstrual disc. The cervix does move throughout your cycle, so where it is on day 10 of your cycle is going to be completely different than where it is on day 23. This is why it does matter when you measure your cervix. The cervix, when you're feeling for it, will feel like the tip of your nose. It will have some firmness and resistance. In comparison, the vaginal walls will feel more spongy in texture. Now we're going to go for it. Make sure you wash your hands before you start this, or you can even do this in your shower. I would suggest measuring on the first day and the last day of your menstrual cycle. This will give you a range to choose from, and you want to pick the lowest number of those two measurements when you are looking for a menstrual cup that fits. Now we're going to go for it. You're going to take a clean finger and reach inside the vagina and feel for your cervix. Once again, it does feel like the tip of your nose. It will have some spring and bounce to it, and you may even be able to feel the little slit or dot at the bottom. If you can't reach it, which is very hard for me to reach on this model, it means you have a very high cervix, so congratulations. If it's easy to reach at the very entrance of your cervix, that certainly means you have a low cervix, and if it's most of your finger end, that typically means you have an average height of cervix. Now, when you hear people say 1 knuckle, 2 knuckle, or 3 knuckle when they're referring to a cervix measurement, that is something I'm not a big fan of because everyone's finger length is different. So for me, 2 knuckles in would be a different actual measurement for someone else when they say they have a 2 knuckles in measurement, and that is typically considered average. I would instead actually measure the length of the finger that fit inside and get a real and true measurement for your cervical height. And to do this, I actually have on periodnirvana.com a printable that you can download, and this will have a little ruler you can cut out, and it has the instructions for measurement as well as giving you the way to make sure that this is printing to scale by using some coins. So most of us will have a US quarter or a Canadian loonie or toonie, and you can use that to make sure that this is printing to scale. So you can cut this out, and it gives you a gauge as well. You can, of course, use a ruler that you have, but this is a little bit more convenient, and it's the right amount of sizing. And it also does measurements in milliliters and inches, so you can use either one when you're shopping or looking for your cup. When you're going to measure officially, what I would suggest is to take your thumb and mark how much fit inside, and when you remove your finger, use that, compare the height to where you marked, and so this says it is 60, and so that is right between an average and a high cervix, which is marked right on here. You can use those numbers when you're taking the Period Nirvana quiz. You can also use those numbers while you're shopping. Now, some things to keep in mind about those numbers and what they mean. If you have a high cervix, that means you will probably want a longer cup. That way you can make sure you reach it and it does not get lost. Now, of course, it can't get lost. There's a cervix there to keep it from going anywhere, but it is one of those things where it is a little bit scary if you can't reach it. So high cervix people, something like a Lily cup or a Kind cup, those are great options for you. If you're in the middle, most things fit. Virtually everything on the market is going to work for you. Something like Salt or Ruby or Lunette or Dot Cup or Mermaid Cup or Twisty on the Go or literally anything. Those are all virtually going to work for you. The stem that is on the cup You can trim down if you need to, depending on where you're at in that average realm. You might need to, but most cups will work for you. For those who have a low cervix, this definitely lowers how many cups are on the market for you. The Mermaid Cup Guppy is a really good option. It also has a wider rim, so if your cervix wants to dip inside the cup on your lowest low days, that's a good option for you. If you have a very heavy flow, something like the Marula One Size would be a great option. If you learn that your cervix varies wildly in its height, and on the first day of your period it was quite low, and on the last day of your period it was quite high, you'll want to do one of two things. One is you just want to pick the cup that's going to fit always, which would be choosing the lower option. You can also maybe go up a little and again think about the cervix being able to dip, so maybe somewhere between a low and an average length cup, allowing for the cervix to dip on its lowest days, and then have something that's a little easier for you to find when it's average or above. And then the other option is simply to have two different cups, which sounds a little bit extreme, but when people know their body really well, it can be way more comfortable to have a low cervix cup for your low cervix days and then an average cup for your average days. And so that's something that you'll find out the more you use cups, or just going ahead and measuring and getting an understanding of how wildly the length of your cervix is from the beginning to the end of your cycle. Typically, people have a lower cervix when the period starts because the uterus is a little heavy, it is full of blood, it basically doubles in size, and then it kind of lifts as the period goes on. But I've heard the complete opposite. So there's really no guarantee. You want to measure on the beginning and the end of your period for the most accurate number, giving you the best chance at finding the best cup for you. So how does this play into account for those who are looking at menstrual discs? It's not quite as important when it comes to picking discs, and if you have a low, medium, or high cervix, because of the way a disc works and sits. The only thing I would say is that if you have a pretty low cervix, you'll want to go with a smaller disc like the Luma Small or the Luma Medium. Otherwise, average or high, any size disc will work. You'll probably want the larger ones. And if you have a high cervix, definitely go for the large Luma, which has a stem, and you can use that to find and retrieve the disc. Otherwise, it might be a little trickier to use one without a stem when you have a high cervix. And that's everything. And if you do want to find that printable ruler, you can find it on periodnirvana.com. I will link it in the description below. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and if you are on Facebook, look for the Period Nirvana community, and you can join me over there. And if you're on Instagram, make sure you're following at Period Nirvana, where I'll post lots of different stories and other helpful content in between these larger, more produced videos. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. How many did I film today? 7?